Hello and welcome back to a game number 2 of the Top Dog League, or Top Dog Season 1, Thunderdog Esport, or presented by Thunderdog Esports. By the end of this, I will figure out how to do this introduction. It's confusing with Top Dogs and Thunderdogs, and we'll get there. Game number 2 between Renegades of Hell and Carleton. Representing the Renegades of Hell is the blue Terran in this, the darker blue Terran in this game. It is going to be Fiend. And representing the University of Carleton in this game, it is going to be the teal Terran player, Moxie. And of course, this is Moxie's first game playing for Carleton, so I think we're all going to be fairly excited to see exactly what he brings to the table. His opponent is a fairly high, I think top 8 Masters player. Moxie doesn't have as many games on his account right now, but is also a fairly highly ranked Masters player, so I think we're definitely going to be in for a very close game that should be very interesting. It looks like we do have some build order deviations coming right out of the gate. Another TVT in this matchup, actually kind of funny, but we do have gas coming up for Fiend, while Moxie is opting for what looks like a gasless. Is this going to be a one rack? I don't know my Terran enough to be able to tell you. I'm sorry, but it looks like he is sending an SCV out to scout his opponent, and hopefully he's going to see the gas and be able to respond to it. We do have, it's funny, I commented this on the last game, we had Carleton as the blue Terran player not walling off the front of their map and not walling off the front of their base and getting a faster gas, while it was the Renegades of Hell in the TVT who went for a delayed gas with the wall at the front and the scout. So it looks like both teams have switched strategies in this game, as well as spawning positions. Of course, the map is different, and we'll have to see if the outcome is also swapped. Of course, Renegades of Hell did take down game number 1, giving them the 1-0 advantage in this set. And for those of you that are not familiar with the Top Dog League format, the games, even though it is a best of 5 played by 5 different players in best of 1s for each week, points are awarded per win, so each game does matter. As far as the league standings go, each game is worth 1 point, so even if you lose the first 3 games in a series, if you win the last 2, you still get 2 points for that night, whereas if you forfeit the last 2, then you'll give up all 5 points. And the winning team of the best of 5 gets a bonus point, I believe. So in total, there are 6 points available between the teams. If you win all 5, you can get 6. If you lose all 5, you get none. We do have, it looks like a Marine scouting for some proxies. Always a good idea to do. And of course, Moxie is going to grab that faster expansion. I guess I better look at what's going on in this game. Moxie has grabbed his gas, also getting a reactor up. We do have a very quick starport coming up for Fiend, so it looks like he's going to be trying to put the pressure on Moxie this game. He has double gas though, so this is different. This is a variation from what Cygnus did. I don't believe Cygnus took his second gas this early. And we do have Moxie getting his factory up, playing it nice and safe, getting the bunker at the front. This looks like a really solid play out of Moxie, and I like the fact that he sent his SCV up, he looked around. If we take a look at the... nice, be able to snipe that off. But if we take a look at what the vision is, he actually did... Okay, so he didn't get to see the factory and the starport, so this might actually catch him by surprise. Cloak Banshee is going to be what's coming up. I was wondering with the double gas if that's what we're going to see. So I guess we're going to be able to see what Moxie's able to deal with his cheese, which is actually very valuable for the Collegiate Star League, because the Collegiate Star League also works on a best of 1 format. When players maybe don't feel confident against their opponent or comfortable in a matchup, you do see a lot of cheese, and it can be very effective in a best of 1 format. So for people interested in playing in the Collegiate Star League, you do see, being able to hold cheese is very, very important, more so than I would say certain individual leagues. But we'll have to see what happens in this game, and whether or not Moxie can, show us what he's got. Well, I'm sure he'll show us what he's got, but we'll see if it's enough to deal with Fiend's Banshee aggression or not. Of course, Cloak is coming up. That's going to put so much more pressure on. The first Banshee's almost there. It's going to synergize really nicely on the Cloak timing. Oh, he just called down mules, so that was what I was going to check. Does Moxie have any scans available? And that answer is no. This is timing out perfectly for Fiend, and it's kind of funny. It's one of those things. If you're off slightly in your macro, you So if you're off slightly in your macro, then you can end up actually getting rewarded quite a bit by sloppy, like if he didn't drop those, then he'd be able to fight this off a lot easier. But of course, he doesn't really, the only anti-air he really has out are the Widow Mines, and that's not going to do too much against the Cloak. He really does need a scan to be able to take down. I'm not actually sure if a Widow Mine, I think a Widow Mine does enough damage to take out a Banshee in one shot, but there's the Viking that he needs, and we'll just have to see how he's able to do this. Of course, the Banshee control is pretty good for Sharpie. That was Fiend's teammate for Fiend. Nice Widow Mine at the front. That could, if he can kite the Marines back over, that could be devastating. Of course, the missile turret did get up in the main base as the first, he went in with only one Banshee instead of two. There's the scan that's should keep, oh, and more SCVs go down. Actually, let's take a look at the workers lost out. That's 10 workers lost, 11 kills on the Banshee. So these Banshees are going to work. They're going to take down the reactor. This is looking, you know, these Banshees are definitely dealing that critical amount of damage that Fiend is looking for. Here comes the Raven. That should clear up this Banshee, but the Raven, it looks like the Raven and Viking get by a little bit. And is he going to be able to force a cancel on that reactor? I don't think so, but he actually gets both Banshees out. So if we take a look at the resources lost, 700 to 50. So Fiend has definitely put himself in an advantageous position, but you have to remember, he delayed his expansion enormously. He still doesn't have a second orbital up. He just, there we go. Oh, I'm on point. Just started that now. Leaves the Widow Mine buried outside the front door. Hopefully for Moxie with that Raven, it's not going to be a game changer, but there's always the potential that that Widow Mine could, as any Widow Mine left randomly buried on the map, could completely, I don't want to say break the game. Try to keep my Zerg biases out of this, but will definitely alter the course of the game in one or another player's favor. And I mean, Widow Mines they're kind of like little wild cards that you throw out on the map. I mean, sometimes they're very deadly, sometimes they really aren't. We'll have to see. Looks like Moxie not burrowing this Widow Mine. That could, I mean, this is a great place to place a Widow Mine just to defend drops and such, but it's not going to do, oh, there we go. I was going to say, it's not going to do a whole lot about defending a drop unless it's buried, but he is going to move out. He said, okay, I've turtled up enough. I think, you know, you did your damage. I think I'm okay. I'm not going to die if the Banshees come back. He's got 3 Vikings out. This is nice position. Actually, this is really nice. The Widow Mine is going to help defend against the Banshees plus the missile turrets, and then he's got his Vikings in the main base where he's not defended by the missile turrets. So a really solid defense. Going to come around and surround these Marines a little bit with the Hellions. If we look back at the base, we see he's added on another factory, so it looks like Moxie may be headed into some mech play, getting the Blue Flame, but it's definitely going to be Tank Marine for our blue Terran player, Fiend, and he looks like he wants to get moving out on the map, using his Banshees to force the Hellions back, and then respreading the Marines to take the map control. So that way when he does move across the map, Moxie doesn't have any notice. And it looks like that Widow Mine did fly up and kill something, probably a Viking, maybe a Hellion. Sorry, I didn't get that. Wasn't paying enough attention. But you can see really nice placements by the Marines, and that's going to just annoy Moxie. Of course, Vikings and Ravens don't shoot down unless they drop a turret. Oh, here we go. Lands the Vikings to clean out the Marine. That's really nice. It's funny, sometimes you forget about stuff like that. It's like, Vikings don't shoot the ground. How are they going to deal with this one Marine? Oh, wait, they can land and kill him. But the Banshee, just the threat of the Banshees on the map really does keep these Hellions at bay. It would be nice to see Moxie trying to move them around and get into position to try and control where the Banshees are. Of course, the Hellions are a lot more disposable, and I believe they're slightly faster than the Banshees. We see move speed 4.25 compared to the Banshees' move speed of 2.75. So the Hellion definitely a faster unit. At the same time, Moxie is kind of massing up these Hellions. He's got a healthy number of them now. May not want to reveal the fact that he's going for mech. I don't know if we take a look. Yeah, it doesn't really look like Fiend has identified that Moxie's going for mech. I mean, he saw 4 Hellions moving around the map, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's meching. Now, there may be some negative, the negative information. You hear Day 9 talk about this a lot, where, well, I didn't see him trying to expand like crazy. I didn't see this. I didn't see something else. So you can deduce that they're going for mech. Nice. He's flying the barracks out here, and the Banshees aren't going to be able to shut down the barracks. Actually, this is interesting. Moxie is actually taking more expansion. So in a situation where you have a bio mech player versus a mech player, the biomech should be trying to get up on expansions, and they should be trying, because their units are going to be less, their units are less effective, but or their units cost less, so they can sort of throw them away more, but need to be able to produce them more. And it's kind of like Zerg versus Terran, except it's Terran versus Terran. So we'll have to see. Of course, with the addition of tanks and banshees, that's going to make it really hard for Moxie to be able to deal with. If somehow Fiend takes control of the skies, the game could just end for Moxie. Like, he could, if Fiend manages to take control, he could just shut that down. He's actually done a really nice job of sort of juking and jiving this army from Moxie. He's gotten himself into a position where he could do a nice push in. He just has to decide if he really wants to commit to it. He's sieging up in sort of a potent area, likely going to secure his own expansion. We see the command center finishing up and some of the upgrades coming down. I haven't really drawn anyone's attention to that, but that is going to be a very important contributing factor. Tons of SCVs, massively oversaturated in his main base. It is definitely, and the natural, so it's definitely time for Fiend. Like, this is a 15-minute third base from a bio player versus mech. So I'm not entirely sure why Fiend didn't feel comfortable with all the map control that he'd taken, just throwing this down over here. But it's something that he really should have done. And here comes the Doom drop. He's sieged up on the low ground. We'll have to see if Moxie's able to deal with this. He does catch the Vikings out, so he's able to drop on the high ground, trying to get rid of these Vikings. The Banshees are going to work, but was he target? Okay, no, he was shooting He was shooting the Hellions. I was like, he's shooting his own siege tanks with his Banshees, because that's never a good thing. Submarines do make it through, and they're going to gut the mineral line as much as they can. They take down some more SCVs, but it looks like Moxie's going to be able to hold this one off, and the supplies are fairly even. If we look at the workers lost, that's 20, but remember there were about 10 to 12 that were killed by that initial Banshee. So overall, that was about 8 workers lost. Let's take a look at the units lost tab, and we see Moxie still down a little bit from that initial engagement. I mean, he's lost a little bit more since then too. Oh, this could be a nice pick of a couple siege tanks for Fiend, but at the end it looks like Moxie managed to hold that okay. Those last few siege tanks kind of hurt a little bit. If he could have kept 2 more siege tanks alive, I think that really would have made him feel more comfortable, maybe moving out and putting counter pressure on the bio player. Interesting to see how both of them are getting their sensor towers up on the same side of the map. Moxie still up on command centers, and this is something that I think is going to be a problem for Fiend. It's great to do economic damage against a mech player, but if you lose your army in the process of it, and they don't lose their army, then you could be in a very, very deadly situation where they can just walk across the map and kill you. Let's take a quick look at the units tab. We see 66 workers to 70, so even with all those workers killed, having the extra command centers for as long as Moxie has, he's really not hurting that much economically, and they're on even footing. Sorry, I did miss a drop here. These are the little Hellbat drop going on. I didn't see how much that killed. Let's take a look. It doesn't look like it did that much damage, but it did harass some of these SCVs, and the medevac escaped. So nice control by Moxie. I mean, you can prioritize. Like, would I rather keep my medevac alive, or would I rather kill all of his workers? And that can be very difficult, because I mean, when you're playing mech, your units are the most important thing. Ooh, the medevac did not get out of there. Nice pull of the workers by Fiend. I mean, if you can kill workers for free as the mech player, that's always a great thing. You never want to lose your workers. Duh. And it's good this time. We do see Fiend is grabbing his base, taking advantage of the map control and the mobility that his composition provides him over Moxie. However, Moxie, okay, he made a planetary out of this one, and I wonder if he's going to do another planetary here, but he definitely, like, Moxie's still ahead on command centers. Fiend is maxed out, so it looks like he's got that huge. He's been making 5 Marauders at a time. I'm sure I should have pointed this out. 5 Marauders at a time. If you look at that, that's 24 Marauders on the map right now. 5 more in production. I'm going to keep saying that because that's a crap load of Marauders. But let's see, the Hellbats looks like some Hellbats get dropped in the fight. It's a good concave for Fiend, but the siege tanks are in the back dealing a ton of damage for Moxie. It looks like Fiend does push through. This is where the initial engagement, when you have all the siege tanks raining fire on the bio, is very cost inefficient for the bio player. But once they push through that Hellbat line and actually, oh nice, drops the Thor right on top of the siege tanks. Like, what do you do against that? I guess you shoot it with 1 Marine, and we'll see. Does the Marine get the Thor? Oh, Hero Marine gets the Thor and the medevac. 2 medevacts. Wow. Okay, this is like the most cost-efficient Marine in the world right there. But and with the Thor gone, the Banshees can go to work on this army. This is what I was talking about. If Moxie lost that air control, he's in trouble. Gonna retreat back, and you can see Moxie won that battle, but losing that air control really allowed Fiend to deal enough damage to his mech army, and it stopped the counterattack. So these are the 2 Banshees from the start, and they're being so cost effective. Look at that. There's a captain, 18 kills on this Banshee, and some of these kills are siege tanks, right? So this is crazy, crazy cost efficiency coming out of these Banshees from Fiend. But you can see on the units lost tab, the mech player being slightly less cost efficient, which is, I mean, this game is kind of abnormal. I mean, normally the mech player can't afford to be cost inefficient because they're less mobile and they don't have as many expansions, but of course in this game the mech player just has as many expansions. So of course these Blue Flame Hellbats going to work on that mineral line. I can't tell, it looks like I thought there was another drop coming in. Oh, here it is. I was thinking, oh god, there's a lot of missile turrets there. It probably just disappeared, but we do have, so that was a triple prong drop. Wow. Moxie is everywhere on this map, dropping these Hellbats, and that's really the utility. Like, this is what you have to do as the meching player, is do something to slow down the economy of the bio player, because eventually they'll just they'll get to a point where they remax before you can do anything about it, and you know, all those Marauders will just chew through your line of mech again. Interesting to see that they're actually expanding close to each other. This could really favor the mech player if he just pushes along here, but I don't think Moxie doesn't know this expansion's up yet, and he hasn't taken control of the watchtowers, but it looks like he's trying to sneak around the watchtowers to get in here. Now, obviously, the sensor tower knows exactly what's up, but Moxie is just going to siege in this position. Oh, the Banshees are back. The Banshees are back, and there's no anti-air in this army. I don't know if this is... Okay, there's the Viking, but... oh, he missed these... Or he scanned for the siege tanks, but... Okay, the Banshees are back. There's only one Viking. How many siege tanks are they going to take? Goodbye, little Banshee friend. Oh no, her cloak wore off, but it looks like he scanned again anyway. Okay, Moxie forced a lift. I should stop watching that because this is where the real action is. There's a massive bio army coming up, and that just cleaned Moxie out. You can look at the supplies, 135 to 174. Moxie still has his siege tanks down here. He's still in an aggressive position on the side, but there is a huge bio army pushing up, and I don't know if he has anything to answer it. This could be it. Fiend's leaving some of his army down here. I don't know if this is intentional or a misclick. Gets another siege tank, and Moxie's in trouble here. He is still currently mining more, and okay, here comes Fiend. I think Moxie's going to be able to hold this, but he's going to lose a couple more siege. Does he lose a couple? Oh wow, that siege tank. Okay, there we go. It does go down. Yeah, okay, I was like, he didn't pick that up. He didn't like unsiege that and pick that up. Like, nobody's that good. Of course, nobody's good enough to pick up a siege tank because that is broken and not allowed. But doing a ton of damage. I think the Banshees finally died. Yes, the Banshees finally disappeared. If we look at the units lost, we see it's about the same ratio of units lost. I mean, obviously the number has gone up, but it's been pretty constant or pretty consistent how much that sort of percentage of cost efficiency that Moxie has been behind. But Fiend has lost this expansion. Moxie's still on 4 bases, and Fiend is on 3 effectively because this base really isn't doing anything for him, which is a bit of a problem for the biomech player. Like, he really wants to be ahead. Catches Moxie on siege at first, but I don't know if this is going to be enough. Moxie drops. Oh wow! Did you see the splash damage from those Hellbats? Really hitting almost everything that Fiend has. But of course, Fiend pushing back up. Actually, Moxie's the one who's pulled ahead in supply. His siege tanks are a little bit more. You see he's got that little bit of a line, but of course, Fiend is pushing through. His tanks are clumped up, and they're going to be able to chew through this. Not in siege mode. The siege tanks actually do deal more DPS. Unless units are clumped, like obviously the splash damage does a lot of DPS. Looks like the air units for Moxie are coming across, but during all the confusion, Moxie secured another expansion, and Fiend is... Yeah, these siege tanks are still here. He hasn't been able to come across to deal with it. So he knows the pressure's on. He needs to shut this down. Even supplies again. So if we look at the worker count, pretty even on the worker count. Moxie's got to try to keep his base alive, but at the end of the day, he's on 5 bases. Like, if he loses this orbital, it's not real, or not orbital. If he loses that planetary, it's not the end of the day for him, but it looks like he's going to be able to sandwich Fiend between his planetary, which he's not going to repair. Okay, no, it looks like he is going to repair it, but he's able to sandwich Fiend between, like, on the cliff. that he was hoping to sandwich, and that he was hoping to sandwich, or hoping to siege Moxie from. And really, mech versus bio, I feel like it shouldn't play out this way. Like I feel like Fiend should have enough units. Like typically, if this was I mean, when I say should, I mean if this was what you would expect to see when you say when it goes mech versus bio, you expect to see command centers everywhere for the bio player, and just they're the ones throwing their army around and losing stuff, and they're kind of way ahead in the supply and then falling behind, but they've got tons of mining bases, so it's okay if they lose their army. But we see Moxie's actually been the one who, yeah, he's behind on the unit resources lost, but not as far behind as he was before. That last fight, being able to pick off this army, he did a very, very cost-efficient job of that. Usually mech is the cost-efficient unit composition here, but our Fiend has been doing an excellent job of really getting all the mileage he can out of his bio forces, getting Marines where he wants Marines, getting Marauders where he wants Marauders. So definitely interesting. It looks like we may be facing a bit of a split map here. Moxie really ahead in supply again, and whenever you see the mech player ahead in supply, I get worried for the bio player. Oh, these siege tanks are so vulnerable. It looks like, oh my god, if that medevac goes down, the medevac does go down, but he's just going to siege up, and yeah, goodbye drop. This planetary, meanwhile, is getting bombarded. Remember, this one went down. Moxie did, or Fiend did fly his orbital over here, so he's kind of trying to clutch, get as much minerals from this location as he can. He's got another orbital, I believe. Is that one from his main base? No, he still got it there. So he does have, like, Fiend has a ton of orbitals on the map, just he's not able to mine from them all. It looks like this medevac might get caught. Afterburners are still on cooldown. Oh no, the humanity. Oh, that was pretty much the, oh god, I can't even remember. It's funny, I remember the news reference, don't even remember the name of the airship. Wow. I need to watch more Archer. Because there's definitely an episode about Archer where they talk about that. But we do see, like, this is a little bit more like it, where you have Fiend, he's got his bio army here, there, and everywhere, trying to fight on both sides of the map. You know, he's doing drops over here, trying to push up this side while defending. Of course, with the big mech army, Moxie's playing this really intelligently, just moving forward, pushing the allies. Remember how I mentioned before, when Moxie's secured this base, he really doesn't have to go far to deny this base from mining. And so he was able to shut that base down. We see the orbital from the main is flying over, but while the bio army of Fiend is over here, Moxie's going to come around. Looks like he's going to pick this orbital off, and yeah, forces this one to lift. He's going to fly back and land to this location. But, or actually, is he building a command center here? I don't know. It looks like that's not an orbital command landing. So Moxie's getting set up for a big battle, but it looks like Fiend is going to try to backdoor, come in and deal critical damage. The problem with this, remember how I said before, if you deal economic damage to the mech player when they're maxed, which Moxie was maxed, he may have even wanted to lose the SCVs so that he could remax on army. We'll have to see what he decides to build, but he still has this huge army to deal with. Are there any Banshees on the map? Because I'm going to cry if Banshees show up and kill all of these siege tanks. Take a look at the resources lost tab. No, there are no Banshees on the map. So a nice maneuver by Fiend, gets in, shuts down one of Moxie's bases, but you can see here Moxie said, okay, whatever, I killed this base, now let's pay attention to the other side of the map. He's got this base, he's got his 10 o'clock base secured. There's a big battle going on in the middle. Looks like Moxie was actually caught unsieged for most of this. This could be the game. If Fiend is able to crush Moxie's army here, there is no way for Moxie to remax, and it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. Moxie is... Ooh, you can see the supply just plummeted. That's the dangerous thing about playing mech. If you're out of position for one moment, you're done. And you can see how so many siege tanks are left over here. Weren't part of that battle. If he had those siege tanks, like one barrage from that many tanks, would have killed this army instantly. But of course, didn't have that available. Great positioning by Fiend. You can see that positioning, repositioning by Fiend really put Moxie in the position where he was able to get caught out like that. And actually, okay, what am I talking about? Moxie has way more than enough tanks here and Hellbats in the medevacs to be able to deter it. So this is where it's a weird game. Like, normally, the mech player, you lose an army like that, that's it. Like, good game. See you next time, because there's no way, like, when you lose that army, like, there's no way for you to remake it. But Moxie, his macro is bang on, he's up on bases, and he's able to get enough siege tanks out that, you know, this pumpkin army over here isn't going to be able to bum rush it. They can't really run in and camp the production facilities, because if they do, they'll lose so much. Here comes another Hellbat drop. There's no None of the missile turrets are up in time, but now they're going to be up in time, and the army is coming back. So Moxie, done over there, going to drop back at this base. Actually picks off a lot of workers. Let's take a look at the resources lost tab, or workers lost tab. 36 to 50. Of course, a big chunk of that 50 were at this base where we just saw Fiend's army decimate a lot of workers right there. But if we look at the resources lost tab, closing up the gap. Only 5,000 minerals separate, or 5,000 resources separating the two of them. Units tab, we see 28 siege tanks versus 8. Of course, that, I mean, there's a lot of Marauders and other units in here for Fiend. I wouldn't say that Moxie is in a position where if Moxie was ever able to actually fight with 28 siege tanks against this ground army in one spot, he would decimate it. It wouldn't get close. But the reality is, you don't make top masters by running your bio into tank fire. I would be very surprised if we don't see Fiend, or if we saw Fiend do that, because, I mean, we've already seen in this game how he's been constantly bouncing around, repositioning, trying to get absolutely the best engagement he can, and we've seen him take great engagements like we did up here, where he really has, like, it seems like he's been behind for most of the game, but he dealt great early damage, so it's kind of like, this is a weird game. I don't really know, it might just be that I just don't know my TVT well enough, but it seems like a very odd game. Both players are maxed out again, but this time Moxie still has his tanks down on this side of the map, but this time he's sieged up before the fight, and he's got that Thor back. And I think that Thor is really, I mean, that really helped him before against the Banshees and against the Medevacs. So drop it. Oh my goodness. Oh, that hurts. So these Hellbats absolutely clean out that base, and you can see this is all the mining Fiend has left. Moxie is slowly closing it out, leaving these tanks over here. If he still had his Banshees alive, this would never be a potential. But he's got the missile turrets and the tank wall set up, and he's secured a base on Fiend's side of the map, which makes it easy for him to harass this base and allows him to focus all of his attention down at the 4 o'clock. So it looks like, oh my goodness, is Fiend going to go through the rock? Okay, it looks like there's the scan coming down. Moxie said, wait a minute, where did this army go? Where did he go? Where did did the bio army just shoot through the middle? So this is an incredibly ballsy play. Fiend is running, this is probably one of his last armies. Like, yeah, he does not have, if you look at the mineral bank, he does not have enough bank to be able to remake this. He needs a perfect engagement. He needs to take down this mech army, and then he needs to be able to take down enough bases, secure an expansion, and keep going, and it looks like that's not going to happen. So many siege tanks still there. I mean, that wasn't the ideal position for Moxie, but it was good enough, and he just needed to be in siege mode for it. So we do have, there's some bio left, but this should be more than enough mech to clean up that bio. It'll do a lot of damage because it's so mobile, and you can see that bio is just running in. Now it's going to turn around, try to get as cost efficient as it can. If we look at the resources lost tab, however, catching that army and shutting down these bases, Moxie has really put himself ahead. Desperation attack through here. Fiend is really hoping, like, hey, maybe these bases are gone, but it's not. Sees the tanks are still there, and that's going to be GG, because there's just no, like, I mean, Moxie meticulously pushed across this map and shut Fiend down. Very, very good play, and welcome to the team. So that's going to tie the series up 1-1 for Carleton and Renegades of Hell.